Hey, it's Tony talking car biz. In this video, I'm going to do just a quick role play on 2 or 3 of the top 5 questions asked by your customers on a phone up. So the 3 I want to handle today, I'm going to talk about the question of availability. Is it still there? Also going to talk about the question of best price. What's your best price? And then I'll also talk about how to answer the question around equipment. Does it have this? Does it have that? Can I get this? Can I get that? So let's get started. So the first question that you're going to get probably 90% of the time from a phone up, a customer calling on a new or used vehicle, oftentimes, especially now with the inventory shortage, you're going to get it 100% of the time. And that question is, do you have this vehicle? And it's usually relating to a piece of inventory they found on the internet, like a piece of inventory they found on your website or Auto Trader, or maybe it's a certified used vehicle, but something they found on the internet, and they're calling your dealership to confirm that it is there before they either A, come to the dealership to look at it, or B, ask additional questions. Usually they're going to ask, is it there? And if it is there, they're going to ask about the price. They might ask about equipment. They might ask about interest rates. They might ask about trade values, those types of 5 questions, categories of questions. But availability is a big one. And when they ask the question of availability, you kind of are on a tight rope right there. Meaning, if you answer yes, it's likely you're going to continue the conversation. They might ask some more questions about the vehicle or price or what have you. But if you answer no to the question of is it still there, then that might create that might be the end of the call. Meaning the customer is going to say, okay, thanks, goodbye, and hang up, or try to get off the phone with you quickly because in their mind you don't have a car that they're interested in. But remember, whether the car's there or isn't there, the customer's still a buyer. They're still in the market. So if you have it and you can continue the conversation, great, but you might hit a speed bump on that. And if you don't have it, that doesn't mean they're going to surrender and stop looking for a vehicle. It means they're going to hang up the phone, go back to whatever website they were on, and try to find an alternative vehicle. So my goal is to set the call up in a way that if I have it, it's a win, and if I don't have it, it's a win. Meaning if I don't have it, the conversation continues and I'm able to discuss alternative vehicles with them. So let's get started with that question of availability right up front. So a customer calls the dealership, ring ring. ABC Motors, this is Tony, I can help. Yeah, Tony, I was on Auto Trader and I saw you had this 2012 Toyota Corolla. Can you tell me if it's still there? Certainly. Let me check and see if it's still available. Do you have a stock number? Okay, great. I'm going to put you on hold for just a moment to see if it's still available. Okay, boom. All right. So the hold is not a terminal hold. The hold is not about running out to the lot to see if the car is still there. The hold should be less than 10 seconds, and you should have your computer already logged into with your inventory in front of you so you can quickly find it. You should also know your inventory website really, really well. Back and forth, up and down, left and right. You should really know your inventory well so that you're able to navigate and determine if the vehicle's there within 10 seconds. Now, when I go to the website, I'm not going to look for that exact vehicle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for my selection of that type of vehicle. So if I know that I'm a Toyota dealer and I know I have 6 or 8 Corollas on the lot, I'm going to search the website for all Corollas. If I know I'm a Chevy dealer and I only have that one Corolla, I'm going to quickly search the website for alternative vehicles similar in size. So maybe Chevy cars, maybe Chryslers, maybe Honda or Toyota, but similar cars, so like a Civic if they're calling on a Corolla. The reason I want to search for similar vehicles is because when I come back from hold, I'm going to come back and let them know we have alternatives, front load that in the conversation. All right, so when I come back from hold, 10 seconds, I'm back here there. By the way, I'm Tony and your name is Bob. Nice meeting you, Bob. It looks like we have 6 or 8 Corollas in stock, including the one you called in on. When would you like to drive it? Okay, so we'll stop there. So do you see how I use the alternative other options to reopen the conversation. By the way, I'm Tony and you are Bob. Nice talking to you, Bob. Looks like we have 6 or 8 Corollas in stock, including the one you called on. And what I'm trying to do there is let them know that if the one they called on isn't the right one, there's alternatives. So when they ask me a question about the one they called on, I've already planted the seed that there might be others that meet their needs. And it makes it easier to roll into those alternatives because I've already introduced them casually when I came back from the hold position. So I'm back. Are you there? By the way, I'm Tony and your name is Bob. Nice talking to you, Bob. It looks like we have 6 to 8 Corollas in stock, including the one you called in on. When would you like to drive it? All right. So what you'll notice there is I did not say what else would you like to know about it. I'm not going to open up new questions. If they have new questions, they're probably going to ask them whether I ask for them or not. So it looks like we have 6 to 8 in stock, including the one you called in on. When would you like to drive it? Stop. Wait for their next question. They might just say, well, I'm on the local highway. I'm just down the street from your dealership. I'll come in right now. So I don't want to blow up that conversation by asking more questions. When would you like to drive it? Well, I just left work. I can be there in a half an hour. Boom. Set that appointment. I am not going to ask them what other questions they have. Now, let's say that they do have other questions, and I say, when would you like to drive it? They are going to ask the other questions. Well, I have a car to trade in. Can you tell me what it's worth? Or, well, does it have leather interior? So don't ask what other questions they have. Allow them to ask those questions, and if they don't ask them, make sure you're closing for that appointment. So availability is a really tricky question. Now let's talk about availability from the perspective of, I saw this car on your website. Can you tell me if it's available? And you know it's not available. You know it because you know your inventory. You saw somebody else drive it and buy it earlier today. The kiss of death is for you to answer that question without putting them on hold. Right? If you know you don't have the car and you say, no, it just got sold this morning, click, you're going to lose them. So use the on hold for every customer, regardless of whether you know you have that car or not. Okay? So certainly, let me check and see if it's still available and put you on hold. Put them on hold. Bring up the category of cars. You know the car's gone, but they're calling on a Corolla. Bring up all your Corollas. So you have the full selection right in front of you on the screen, so you can easily start talking about those alternatives when you come back from hold. Now, what does that sound like when you come back from hold and the car's gone? I'm back. Are you there? By the way, I'm Tony and you are Bob. Nice talking to you, Bob. It looks like we have 6 to 8 Corollas in stock. Unfortunately, one you called on is no longer here. What did you like about that car? What was it about that car that interested you? As I mentioned, I've got some others to take a look at. So you see how by coming back and introducing the alternatives and then giving the good news, it's here, or then delivering the bad news, it's not, you've still left the conversation open to discuss those alternatives. Now, even if the car's there, it's been my experience that I could still lose the call based upon their subsequent. So as an example, let's say I close and I say, when would you like to drive it? And then they say, well, can you tell me if it has a sunroof? So that's what I call the equipment category. Anything relating to equipment, features, condition, that type of stuff. I want to answer that question. So let's say in this case they say, does it have a sunroof? Okay. So now we're going to apply the principle of quickly, confidently, and to their satisfaction. If it has a sunroof, we're going to say, yes, it does have a sunroof. If it doesn't, we're going to say, no, it doesn't. Okay? We have no way of knowing when they ask if it has a sunroof, whether they want it or not. Some people will ask because they do. Some people will ask because they don't. Let's not assume. Let's just answer the question. And we're going to answer the question very simply, very concisely, very direct. Yes, it does have a sunroof. Is that okay? Boom. All right? We're not going to tell them, yes, it has a sunroof, and then tell them all the great features on the sunroof. So, as an example, equipment. Equipment is one of the 5 categories that you can expect customers to ask questions from. Equipment. Does it have this? Does it have that? Can I get that? Can I get this? So, even though you were successful in answering the question of availability, maybe it was a positive, yes, the vehicle's there, you can still lose the call based upon how you answer the question of equipment. So the question of equipment is, okay, great, does it have a sunroof? So let's say we close the appointment and we say to the customer, yes, it is available. When did you want to drive it? And they say, yeah, well, that's great, but I need to know, does it have a sunroof? Okay, there's two answers to that question, does it have a sunroof? There's either yes, it does, or no, it doesn't. And we're not selling sunroofs on the sales call. Just remember, our goal here is to set an appointment, that is to get the customer and the car together, whether it's at the dealership or on the customer's turf. So when they ask about the sunroof, we're going to answer it using the three principles I talked about before: quickly, confidently, and to the customer satisfaction. So because you have your inventory pulled up on your screen, you can drill into that vehicle and answer the question of a sunroof, or you may already know that. And so we're going to answer that question. But remember, we're not selling sunroofs. So the way you answer the question of equipment is just simply, yes, it does, or no, it doesn't. Yes, it does have a sunroof. Is that okay? Remember, we're not selling sunroofs, so let's not start talking about the sunroof and all the great features of the sunroof. The reason I don't want you to talk about the features on the sunroof is, number one, they may or may not want the sunroof, right? So by saying yes, it does, or simply by them asking whether it has a sunroof, is no indication of whether they do or do not want a sunroof. People will ask that question from both directions. They'll ask if it has a sunroof because they don't want a sunroof, or they'll ask if it has a sunroof because they do want a sunroof. So let's not second guess and think we know why they're asking the question. And let's not start selling the sunroof. Let's not talk about that it's power and it's got a shade and it's tinted and all that stuff. Why? Because just because it has a sunroof, they might not even want the sunroof, and so therefore we're talking all about a sunroof and they don't even want it, right? Wasting that time. The other thing is some of the things that you talk about on the sunroof, some of the features that you're selling about the sunroof, may be objections to them. Maybe you tell them it has a power sunroof and they had a bad experience with a power sunroof and they don't want a power sunroof. So let's not answer those questions or step on those landmines that we don't need to. All right. So yes, it does have a sunroof. Is that okay? If they say yes, then we close. Just that simple. Great. When did you want to take it for a spin, today or tomorrow? Notice we're following the same principles, quickly, confidently, to their satisfaction. When they said, does it have a sunroof? And we said, yes, it does. And is that okay? And they say yes. We answered the question to their satisfaction. Let's close. If they have more questions, they'll ask them. Now, let's say, for example, we answer the question, does it have a sunroof? And the answer is no, but they did want one. It may be no, and they say, great, I didn't want one. I'm happy to know that. And then you close. But maybe they did want a sunroof and it doesn't have a sunroof. Well, this is where the alternatives come in from earlier in the call, the availability portion of the call. When we went on the website, we came back, said it looked like we have six or eight Corollas in stock, including the one you called in on it. When would you like to drive it? So when we say it doesn't have a sunroof and they say, shoot, I wanted a sunroof, it's a great opportunity to open up those alternative vehicles. Well, as I mentioned, I've got 6 to 8 others Corollas in stock. Let me take a look at those and see if any of those have sunroofs. Okay, see how we're prolonging the conversation and keeping the conversation going even when the answer is a negative. Remember, if it doesn't have a sunroof and we told them up front, no, it doesn't have a sunroof, and they hung up, we lost them, but that doesn't mean they're not going to continue to shop. I'll tell you a real quick story about how I know they're going to continue to shop. Running BDCs over the years, it's happened more times than once where a customer calls and gets Susie BDC rep on the phone, and Susie tells them it doesn't have a sunroof and loses them. And then like 3 or 5 minutes later, Bob over here gets a phone up from the same customer on another car that's on our lot that's just like it, another Corolla that does have a sunroof. Why did that happen? Well, it happened because the customer, number one, was on a website that showed all of our inventory, right? And other dealers' inventory. And so when Susie lost them, they just went down the page on the website and found another car. It happened to be at our dealership. They called and Bob got the call. Where Susie, had she followed the word tracks earlier, the availability and the alternative vehicle word track, Susie could have continued the conversation and helped the customer discover further down the page, we do have a car that's for them. Now you might think, well, that's fine. Susie lost them, but Bob got them. But how many competitor vehicles were between the Susie and the Bob call that either they called on or they could have called on, and we would have lost them all together? So the point of the alternative vehicle not only helps early in the call, but it helps on equipment questions. By the way, it also helps on price questions. So we're going to follow these principles quickly, confidently to their satisfaction as we move through all the questions, the big five: availability, equipment, price, trade, and interest rate. We're going to deal with all of those questions using the same principles, the same three principles, quickly, confidently to their satisfaction. Be sure and tune in and watch the individual videos on each one of those where I dive in depth to walk you through how to answer those big five questions. This is Tony with Green P Consulting. Thanks for watching.